Hi, I've had some requests to do a tutorial on how to play the John Mayer song New Light, so here we are. What I want to avoid is just telling you that it's A minor, D major, G major, and then C major with a little bit of a B7 in there. What I'd like to do is talk you through what I did on my cover of it and the thinking behind it. So there's a few riffs that are on the track. There's a few keyboards that I copied onto the guitar, and there's also a guitar part that follows the chord progression with also, I suppose, a synthy keyboard element to it as well. So we know that it's A minor, D major, G major and C major, but I think that it's nothing exciting, it's very thick in terms of sound, and I don't think that's even as a guitar part on the original track. Let's go through the guitar parts that are on there, and then we'll look at the chords that I've chosen to use to follow the progression and how you can make that work as a guitar part in itself. So the first guitar part we're going to look at is throughout pretty much the whole song, and it's going down a G major scale, starting from the G here, and you're basically going to go down. Now when it's played, I would palm mute. So that's the first guitar part. Second guitar part that's quite clearly in the song comes in on verse 2, and it's a simple, funky single note guitar part. And it's basically just going from G to A, G picked, then hammer onto the A, and then A picked again. There's also a bit of silence in between. And the same again going from the F sharp to the G. That's the second guitar part. It makes sense at this point to go through the chord progression. What I've chosen to do on the cover is to move it to a higher inversion of those chords. And this is for two reasons. The first reason is because I think that a full 6-string chord is a bit too much for this kind of song. And the second is so that I can incorporate some of the keyboard parts to it as well. There's a theme in the song that I could kind of hear in the background, which was a and I wanted to put that in as a guitar part and play the chords at the same time. So to do that, you can't go it's not a very easy part to play, and it doesn't sound like it's one part. It sounds like two parts trying to be played at the same time, all by one guitarist. Now if we choose the A minor chord here, taking away our pinky because we don't really need it, we can do something with. Then we go to the D, which has got that note here. That's making more sense. Choosing our C-shaped G major chord, but taking out the A string and the high E string. Then go into a C here. That makes it much, much easier to play. And it's the kind of part that I would imagine that John Mayer would play as well. Now there is that B7 in there, just before the chorus. And what we can do here is... So that would be a... That comes in just before the chorus. So now we've got our riff that goes throughout the whole song. We've got our funky riff that appears in verse 2. And we've got our chords that goes through the whole song as well. We've now got the funky guitar part that comes next. So that's after the second chorus, in the bridge, just before the guitar solo. There's a couple of different ways that you can play this. Basically, as long as it's got these two double stops. Personally, I've chosen this one for, again, two reasons. One being that you can mute nicely. And the second reason is because I can follow the chord progression using my bass notes. The first note that we're going to add to it is just basically going to be the octave. After that, we then need to play the 10th fret of the E string with those same two high notes. Now be careful of the muting on that part. Then there's a slight change of the fingering, so we're swapping the index and the middle finger over there, and we're going to play the F sharp and the E. And then E to D. So altogether this is going to sound like this. Now you could play this just that, all the way through. It's entirely up to you. I quite like the idea of just following the chord progression somewhat as well, and I could hear that that's what was going on the track. So I decided to add that to the part. Now we've got the guitar solo, but before I tell you how to do the lead part, what I'm going to do is show you what happens underneath. The rhythm's the same on the picking hand, palm muted again, and you're using the same chord, so A minor, D major, G major and C major. The root note's always on the E string this time, so instead of going down, it's going to sound a little bit like this. So it ends on the G there, and we don't do the last bar of the C major because there's a chord. We'll call it a chord climb because it climbs up the chord. But I've made you wait long enough. Let's go through the guitar solo. To play this guitar solo, you're going to need to be familiar with the G major pentatonic scale. So we're in this 12 to 15 fret register, and we're going to add in two notes to that scale, and they are going to be the 11th fret of the G string and the 13th fret of the B string. And we all know that it starts with a, which is a 14 on the G string to 12 on the B string and then 13 on the B string. We're then going to go 14th on the D string to 11, one of those new notes, on the G string. We're then bending from the note of the 11th, which is the B, to a C. So then we go to the 13th fret of the B string, and we're bending up to the 16th fret of the G string, from 14th fret and then down to 12. So all of that altogether is going to sound like this. And then we start the same phrase, start the second half of the solo with the same phrase as the first half. Those first three notes. And then we're going to hammer on from 12 to 14 of the D string this time. So that's a 12 picked, hammered on to the 14th, and then picked on the 12th again. The end of the guitar solo is a... So that's bending from 14th to 16th, then down to 12th, and then bending back up from 14th to 16th again, but sounding like this. I want to put some vibrato at the end as well, all together. And then we've got that chord rise, which is E minor to a D major with an F sharp in the bass, an E major with a G sharp in the bass, a B minor, and then an A minor. So those chords are quite full, and if you're playing this as a cover, you could just have the bass player play E, F sharp, G sharp, B, and A. And that frees you to do the same thing that we were doing over here. Kind of more lighter chords, we'll call them, and only focus then on the highest 4 strings. It's also much easier to do those chord changes as well. But if you are able to do it to speed and you want to add that extra depth to the chord in there, then please feel free. Now what we can't forget is the 2 keyboard parts that we can also play on the guitar. So the first one is going to be using your G major pentatonic scale that you know from the guitar solo, and it sounds like this. So we're starting on the 12th fret of the D string up to 14. Then to the 11th fret of the G string, and then back down 14 and 12 on the D string. And then hammering on from 12 to 14 twice. And then from 10 to 12 one time. And that riff gets played at the end of the intro, I suppose you could call it, before verse 1 and at the end of the first chorus. Technically it's played the octave higher on the track by the keyboard part, so you could, work that out. But I quite like the unison sound that it gave when you play it with the keyboard part in the background. So that's the first keyboard part. Let's have a look at the second keyboard part, and this comes at the end of the second chorus, just before the funky guitar part. So we're down on the 3rd to the 5th fret now, and we're starting on the G note on the D string, which is the 5th fret. So we're going up from G, 5th fret of the D string, to the 2nd fret of the G string, and then up to the 4th, and back down again. And then we just go down the major pentatonic. So that's it, thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button and the bell for the notifications, and hit the like button if you like it. If you dislike this video, that's totally fine, you can hit that button as well, but please do let me know in the comment section below, regardless what you do think of this video. If you use this video to learn the song, please let me know how you get on with it, and if you do a cover, link it to me and I would love to check it out. Take care and we'll see you soon. Bye.